this button. Oh, that's okay. You will second comment. Oh, okay. Hare Krishna. Naranjaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloker Bhaktir Bhavate Naishtaki Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinadarinam Paramanandamadavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Grandaraj Srimad Bhagvatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Gurudev ki, Gaura Premanande. Okay, so we are starting Srimad Bhagvatam today. As all of you attended last week, Ghanshyam Prabhu spoke the glories of Bhagavatam and the types of listeners. Good listeners, bad listeners. So one request, if you have mobile phones, please put it on silent mode. That's a request. So we can not have any interruptions when the class is going on. One of the most important things about Srimad Bhagavatam is studying it in a very systematic way. The first chapter of first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, thank you Mataji. In the first canto of the first chapter, first canto, Srila Prabhupada, in many of the purports, he writes it again and again, that Srimad Bhagavatam has to be studied very systematically from the starting to the beginning, not jumping into a certain part of Bhagavatam. It's very important to read it systematically. So that is one thing that is very important in reading Srimad Bhagavatam, which is what we are trying to achieve in this class. And so I've structured the class in this way. So we also are going to get you this books called Bhagavat Sudobdini, which is basically, it'll give you overview of, each chapter, right? So this way, when we study, we can keep track of what we are learning. It's like a summary of what we are going to study. But there are certain things that we will do deep dive as well. There are certain points we will do deep dive, but mostly we're going to go as a summary. And there are 5 aspects of each shloka that we are going to look at, right? Because when we go into Srimad Bhagavatam is such a Purana. It is, Srila Prabhupada actually mentions it as the Swarupa of Krishna. In Bhagavatam, he explains, Srimad Bhagavatam is the Swarupa of Lord Krishna. It's his internal potency manifested in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam could be understood on multiple levels in multiple perceptions, right? So if, for example, You walk down. How many of you last went to Barangaru? It's like Darling Harbor. All of us have gone there, right? So when you go there, what do you observe? What do you see? What's in your mind? What do you remember from the last time you walked in that place? Breeze.
Plants, water.
Sorry?
Plants and water.
Water, okay.
Nearby buildings.
Buildings. See, we are all walking in the same space, but we observe different things based on our different interests, different perceptions. Right? So even in materially, it is very true. Like, if a young boy is walking, he's going to look at all the young girls that are there. Right? If a businessman is going to walk down the same road, he's going to look at and then observe, what is, how people are doing business here, what I can, take back to my business. So everybody have their own perceptions, and which is very true in spiritual life as well. In the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagvatam, when Krishna enters Mathura to fight in the arena of, to fight the two wrestlers, so there is a string of verses which describes how Krishna is perceived by each group. The elderly citizens of Mathura, they are looking at it and say, oh, this is not fair. These are just two boys, and these wrestlers are so big, and how are they going to fight? This is not fair. And then the elderly women are thinking, seeing Krishna as their son. The young girls are looking, oh, what a handsome boy. And then how Kamsa is seeing Krishna, he is seeing Krishna as death personified. Right? The same personality is standing there, and then each of them are perceiving the same personality in different ways, and all of them are true. Because Krishna can fulfill any desire. There is nothing that is not there in Krishna. Everything emanates from Krishna, and everything is in Krishna. So every perception is correct. For Kamsa, Krishna was death. His perception was not wrong. All the perceptions were fulfilled. So, Krishna fulfills everybody's perception. The same thing is with Srimad Bhagvatam. Srimad Bhagvatam, because it is the perception of Lord Krishna, it is the manifestation of the internal form or Swarupa of Krishna. It is so deep, it is so unlimited, there are no ways to describe the end to it. Right? It's so deep. So there are many ways from which we can look at the Shastras, right? And for us, particularly Gaudiya Vaishnavas, when the Acharyas, when they look at any philosophy, they divide it into three parts. What are they? Anybody? You have done Nectar of Devotion? It's called Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So there are three parts to any philosophy we learn. I'll tell what I'm going to fill here later. Okay? So anything that we learn can be divided into three. What are these three? Sambandha is basically the connection or the knowledge. Abhideya is practice. And Prayojana is goal. So any activity that we do, it needs to have a goal, right? And we need to know how to achieve the goal. What is the goal, what is our connection with the goal, all those things we need to learn. And finally, Abhideya is after knowing, you apply it to achieve the goal, right? It's not only true in spiritual life, it's true in material life as well. Any activity you take, we can divide it into these three parts. So, any verse that we look, each verse, as I said, you can look at from the angle of Sambandha, same verse. I'm not talking about different verses. Within the same verse, based on what you want to learn, you can find all these three. Because we again heard in the glories of Srimad Bhagvatam last week that even a quarter of sloka, right, just by saying Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, we can achieve perfection. Right? Because in every quarter line, in every line of Srimad Bhagavatam, all these three are completely, it's embedded in them. right? So just by knowing that, you know the goal, you know the Sambandha, you know Abhideya. Then the question arises, if I can just learn quarter a verse of Srimad Bhagavatam and I can achieve perfection, why there are 18,000 verses? Right? I can just learn, because Srila Prabhupada also writes, this is going to be the theme of our Srimad Bhagavatam reading, okay? This simple line that Srila Prabhupada has mentioned is going to be the theme for us. In this, I think it's the second shloka purport Srila Prabhupada is writing, process is simple, application is difficult. Keep this in your mind. This is going to be our mantra for everything that we are going to do in this class. Process is simple, application is difficult. Right? Process is very simple. We have to go, all of us know, we have to go back home, back to Godhead, to Krishna. Yes? And we know Krishna is Lord. And in ISKCON we are very strong in philosophy. We all know philosophy very nicely. We know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We know we are the soul, we are not the body. We know the way to connect Krishna is devotional service. And we also know the 9 forms of devotion. We know all this basic philosophy, most of us. The basis is we are all very strong. But where do we struggle? When it comes to practice, right? Because it's not a very simple thing to practice, particularly in Kali Yuga, which is again we are going to read in the first canto. That's again the theme of the first chapter of Bhagavatam, because Kali Yuga, people, it's very difficult to do anything. Because that's the nature of Kali Yuga. So application becomes very difficult. Right? And there are so much knowledge, and when we try to apply it, some seems to contradict each other. We don't know how to take the right decisions. Right? There's a story in Mahabharata. So there is a husband and wife, right? The husband is a great rishi, and he has told his wife, he's a great rishi, and he married her, and then he said, I will stay with you only until you never disagree on anything with me or do anything that I don't like. The moment you do anything that I don't like, I'll leave you and go away. Okay? This was the condition on which he married her. And she was very careful, extremely careful. So one day, what's happening? So this is the principle. The principle is you have to take care of, serve a rishi who is a great devotee. So now, one day in the afternoon after lunch, the rishi lies down on the lap of the wife and he goes to sleep. Right? Now as he goes to sleep, he keeps on sleeping, and then the evening comes, sunset time, sandhya. We call the sunset and sunrise sandhya times. They are very auspicious. They are the best time to practice devotional service or any kind of devotional activity. So sandhya comes, and it's very important for the rishis to do sandhya vandana, right? Because sandhya vandana is the basis of their spiritual life, and it is, there is no leniency there. You have to do it on time. Before the sun sets, it has to be finished. So now the wife is in quandary. He said, don't disturb me while sleeping. If I disturb him, he's going to get upset with me. If I don't if I don't wake him up, okay, he's going to lose his, his own virtue, and then he's going to be upset with me. So which rule do I follow now? Right? It's just one very complex example. But what I'm saying is we face it in our day-to-day life. Oh, there's a Govardhan Puja in the temple, but I can't get leave in my office. What's more important? It could be as simple as that, or as, the dilemma the wife of the Rishi Jatakratu faced. So the whole idea of the structure of this class is primarily going to be Abhideya. That's what we are going to focus on our reading in Srimad Bhagavatam. How do we understand, right? How do we apply this in our day-to-day life, right? Because just learning philosophy is not enough. Right? And everything starts, again, as I said, on goal. As devotees, we should be very, very clear. There can be problem in sambandha. We may not have the enough knowledge. Okay, we may not be able to practice. Fine, because we struggle, we have attachments, we have circumstances that are stopping us from advancing in Krishna consciousness. That all fine. But this is no compromise on this. Right? So the goal has to be very clear. right? And then, because if the goal is not clear, if we have not set our goal clearly, that I want to go back home, back to Godhead and be with Krishna and be in the service of the Lord, then all this doesn't make sense, right? So, no doubts on that? Yes.
That's the ultimate goal.
Yes.
How would we check ourselves whether we are actually in progressing toward that goal? Like, do we have some goals? Or
Yes. That's what we are going to learn. That's what this whole class is about. That's what Bhagavatam is all about. All right? Bhagavatam is all about that, Abhideya. Or, as I said, it has many things, but our focus, our perception is going to be from this. What are the sub-goals we need to set? Right? Because if you see, any Purana, if you take any Purana, there are 18 Puranas in our Shastra, right? Matsya Puran talks about what are the characters of a Purana, what can be called a Purana. Even that, not just like I write a book and I can call it a Purana. Right? So there are many rules there, when a scripture is written, when what has to be accepted as a Purana. And then in that it says, oh, you have to talk about, because it's Purana means, the word Purana itself means history. Right? Because it's history, all Puranas have to talk about creation. It has to talk about various dynasties. So all these things have to be talked. But in Bhagavatam, what you would see is even though it talks about dynasties, who's the son of, as we go in the 5th, 6th chapter, we'll go very fast, because it's like, he's the son of his, if you see Prabhupada also, there won't be any purports there. So we'll go out very fast in 5th and 6th canto. But the idea in Bhagavatam is not chronology. Keep again this in mind. Please don't question, oh, Prabhu, why we talked about this, but this seemed to happen before that. Why did we talk that? Right? Because again, as I said, in Bhagavatam, we are not chronological. Chronology is nonsense in Vedic literature. Because in Vedic perception, time is cyclical. Right? What happened today is going to happen again in next Kali Yuga. So it's cyclical. So we don't need time machine. Okay? It's cyclical. Time is cyclical. So chronology is not important to us, and we are not going to focus. So the focus of Bhagavatam is this. The focus of Bhagavatam is this.
can you make more clear about Sambandha?
Okay.
For examples?
Okay, I'll come to that. Just give me a minute. I'll finish this flow and then I'll come to it. So Abhideya is practice. How to practice what we are doing. Right? So Bhagavatam, there are 12 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, and in the first canto, Srila Prabhupada is writing, at least in 3 purports, Srila Prabhupada is writing the importance of reading it from first canto until 12th canto, and not jumping to, 10th canto, or, he particularly mentions 10th canto, but he says that we shouldn't jump. Right? And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Jiva Goswami compares the Bhagavatam to the body, as I said, is Swarupa of the Lord. For, the first 2 cantos are the first 2 lotus feet, are the 2 lotus feet of the Lord. So when you have darshan, if you read Nectar of Devotion deeply, it says how to go and have darshan of the Lord. Again, coming to Abhideya. It's not that you go stand there and look at like this, no. There is a way to look at the Lord. You start from the lotus feet and go up all the way and see the lotus face. Right? So, same, Bhagavatam. We start from the lotus feet and go to the face. And by doing that, this Abhideya becomes easy to us. So it's based on practice. What would help you to advance, to come to the level to see the face of the lotus face of the Lord. Right? So if you have not fulfilled the Abhideya and the Sambandha knowledge that's given in the first 9 cantos, we can't understand the 10th canto. And we would always wrongly apply our understanding. Either we will follow it wrongly, or we will just imitate and not do, really follow. So that's why it's very important that we read Bhagavatam systematically from the first canto to the 12th canto. So to answer Mataji's question, Sambandha is basically the knowledge. All philosophy that we learn, the knowledge is Sambandha. Like, who is God? Who am I? What is my connection with Krishna? What is this material world? All of this is Sambandha Jnana. Jnana means knowledge, right? Because this is what gives you the knowledge. Oh, Krishna is God. I am Atma. I am part and parcel of Krishna. These are all knowledges, okay? So you don't have to write specifically what Sambandha is. Just understand the concept, and we will go through Sambandha in each of the sloka. We'll see what is the Sambandha, what is Abhideya, what is Prayojana. And then, so that is Sambandha. Is that clear, Mataji, for you? So it's basically the knowledge. And who is the Acharya? We also have an Acharya for each of this, right? Sambandha Jnana, the Acharya is Sanatana Goswami. For us, the Sambandha Jnana is represented by Sanatana Goswami, and there is also a deity for Sambandha Jnana. Who is it? Anybody knows? Yes, Radha Madana Mohana is the deity, Vigraha for Sambandha Jnana. Why Madana Mohana? Madana Mohana means one who attracts, right? So why do we come to Krishna consciousness? We had some kind of attraction, right? Either we came here for prashadam, for knowledge, or we wanted something from the Lord. Some reasons that for initial attraction. So sambandha or the knowledge is the initial attraction that gives us or gives the purpose why we need to go in spirituality, right? So that's why Radha Madana Mohana represents sambandha. Abhideya, the Acharya is Rupa Goswami, right? Because he wrote Nectar of Devotion, and Nectar of Devotion is the basis of all our practice, right? How to do Aarti, when to wake up in the morning, how many rounds we chant. Everything is based on, Nectar of Devotion. We do Parikram, we take, Charanamrit. All of it is given in Nectar of Devotion. All practice that we do is given in Nectar of Devotion. So Rupa Goswami is the Abhideya Acharya, and the Vigraha is, anybody knows?
Govindaji is
No, Govindaji is Abhideya. Why? Govinda. Govinda means master of senses. And what does Abhideya or practical devotion means? Engaging our senses in the service of the Lord. Make sense? So Radha Govinda is the Abhideya deity. Okay? And what is the Prayojana? What is the final goal? What's the final goal for us? Go back to Godhead. And after going back to Godhead, what are we going to do? Serve who? How? Through whom? To Radharani. And how do you serve Radharani? Through gopis. Right? So the Prayojana Acharya is Raghunatha Goswami, because he explained all the conjugal pastimes of Krishna and Radha. And who is the Vigraha? Radha Gopinath. Right? Gopinatha. He's the master of all the gopis, and our final goal is to go and serve the gopis, and he's the master. So the Vigraha is Radha Gopinath. Okay? So these are all the three perceptions, or the three ways that we are going to look each sloka of Srimad Bhagavatam as we go along, so that we can understand and relate to Bhagavatam. That's number one. Number two, also very, very important that we tend to miss, is we are going to learn from Bhagavatam lot of etiquettes or rules of Varnashrama Dharma. And these are not material Varnashrama, as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains, it's Daivi Varnashram. Right? Outside, because these are purely spiritual topics, we are also going to learn many etiquettes, including how to think, right? How to behave, how to talk. Primarily, the etiquettes, touch three parts of it: mental, words, and physical. Okay? So we are going to learn that how to behave, how to talk, because again, these are all very important for our practice in Krishna consciousness, right? So they're going to learn all of this from Srimad Bhagavatam as we go along. And most importantly, how many of you have read the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam? Yes? And do you remember the preface Srila Prabhupada writes? Sorry?
Long time back.
Mataji? No? Okay. So Srila Prabhupada talks about, in the preface, it's very interesting. Srila Prabhupada is, amazing. Gaur Govind Maharaj, he says, Srila Prabhupada's purports are like a deep ocean. As you dive deeper, you get so many gems out of it. The deeper you go, the more valuable the gems are. And there is no end, because ocean you cannot find the end of the ocean. Right? In Agni Puran, it says there is a rishi who wanted to find the depth end of the ocean, not what we see. Our perception is very limited. So he is still searching for the last many yugas, and he has not attained the end of ocean. That's how deep the ocean is. And that's how deep Srila Prabhupada's purports are, starting from his preface. And before I go into Srila Prabhupada's part, one thing that I wanted all of you to remember is Srila Prabhupada's purports are based on 4 acharyas. When he wrote, Prabhupada did not just whimsically write purports. Prabhupada was, because it's not only for us, it's even great scholars, Sanskrit scholars, people who have, from other sampradayas who write commentaries, they sit and read Srila Prabhupada books and they take points from that. Why? Srila Prabhupada, there are 4 people he generally, he's very, he read them, understood them, and he translated in English, and he summarized them in his purport for us. So they are very deep. The 4 acharyas are Sridhar Swami, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and Baldev Vidyabhush. These are the 4 acharyas, Srila Prabhupada. If you read Bhagavatam, you will again and again in his purport, you'll see these references. You'll see these references again and again, these 4 acharyas. Srila Prabhupada used to read their commentaries, and you can go and read all of their commentaries separately. There are devotees who have translated. It will take a lifetime for us to finish, right? And Srila Prabhupada is so merciful that he has taken it and then he has translated and gave us. So just by reading Srila Prabhupada's purport, we are reading the commentary of 4 acharyas plus Srila Prabhupada, his own commentary as well. Like we hear, originally Bhagavatam was written by Vyasdev, but because it came from the mouth of Sukadev Goswami, it became more sweet. Similarly, these 4 acharyas, they wrote their commentaries, and then when it came from the purport of Srila Prabhupada, it becomes more sweet, it's more deep. So it's a very deep purport. So one other thing we'll also see is how Srila Prabhupada, his purport is, because sometimes when I first read, one of the problems I faced is Srila Prabhupada's purport. Why is Prabhupada talking about this in this purport? What's the link to the shloka? Right? Initially I struggled a bit, but the more and more again I repeatedly studied, then I could understand where Srila Prabhupada is, what he is trying to show us. Right? I'm just saying I'm still limited. I've read only one side of it, and I've understood maybe 1% of it. But as we deep dive, there are so many things. So what we are going to do also is, along with the sloka, we will also cover few important points in the purport that Srila Prabhupada has mentioned and why he has mentioned them. What is the link to the sloka, and what is the link to these 3 parts. So that is something that we are going to see. And so anyway, coming back to the preface. In the preface, Srila Prabhupada writes that humanity has, so many, the biggest, we are trying to solve so many problems materially. And no problem can be solved materially. The only way to solve all problems is by going through Bhagavatam. He says Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Right? So in the preface, he mentions that. Right? So again, I repeat, for all our problems, it could be, I don't have enough money. I have this problem, that problem. For every problem, the answer is Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm not saying because you read Srimad Bhagavatam, tomorrow you're going to win a lottery. That's not the point. But the point is that we would know how much money we need. Maybe that's a problem. Right? So Bhagavatam will give us all the answers that we need. It's okay? And also, most importantly, introduction. Anybody remember what Srila Prabhupada writes the introduction to Srimad Bhagavatam? Yes? No? So the introduction is actually the summary of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Introduction to Bhagavatam is the summary of Chaitanya Charitamrita, because Chaitanya Charitamrita is, the whole the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada wrote a summary in like 10-15 pages. All the things that are there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Why did he do this? Why to write about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life in Bhagavatam's introduction? Again, because this, Abhideya. All the things that we are going to learn, all the things that we are learn how to practice is by understanding a life of a devotee. And the topmost of all devotees is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he goes on to say that if you have read all the literatures of Goswamis, Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, Bhagavatam, everything, Bhagavad Gita, you have learnt everything. Still, you will apply everything wrongly and you will not become a devotee unless you have read Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says that is the book that teaches us how to apply our teachings on a day-to-day life. So again, I'm going back to, because the emphasis is going to be on this application, right? So this is the intention of this course. Any questions? We're going to definitely see the knowledge part, what we are going to learn, but the emphasis is going to be on application. So any questions? So I'm just talking about how we are going to structure the class, what the emphasis is going to be. Yeah? Yes? Any questions? Clear on the objectives, what we are going to cover? Yes? Okay. Before we go, can you please take one and pass it around? So the books are coming for you. I think Ghanshyam Prabhu has already ordered 50 copies of this book. So if you have not registered, or you have registered, we're going to get it in 2 weeks. Until we get until that, we have only one copy. So what I did is I took a printout of the first chapter. Half of first chapter is what we are going to cover. So we'll not do one full chapter every week. Our aim is to cover at least half a chapter every week. So that way we can, progress. So today we are going to cover the first 10 shlokas of the first chapter of Srimad Bhagvatam. Okay? So that's what we are going to cover today. Clear? I'll just wait so that the pages are all passed down. First is Sridhar Swami, whose commentary Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to read. He is an acharya who took birth before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he wrote a commentary. He is very famous. Even Mayavadis read his commentary. Second one is Jiva Goswami, who is the greatest scholar of Gaudiya Vaishnava. In his lifetime, Jiva Goswami wrote 300,000 verses. I don't know whether we can read 300,000 verses, but he wrote 300,000 verses. Right? Then the third one was Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, again, Srila Prabhupada mentions in one of the purports. He looks in a very different angle. His is very high because he looks the whole Bhagavatam from an eye of rasa. It's like, it's a very high principle. And then the fourth one is Baldev Vidyabhushan. So all of them have written commentary. All of their translations in English exist, and it takes at least 10 to 12 years to finish reading them, I can tell you. And Srila Prabhupada has summarized and given everything. There is nothing in that, we will not. So as Ghanshyam Prabhu said, for us, everything stops with Srila Prabhupada because he has given us the crux of all the four acharyas. So we are going to go with verse 1. We have skipped the We have skipped what you call the verse reading because Ghanshyam Prabhu said we'll continue after 2-3 weeks. So any scripture, so we're going to verse 1.1, that's where we are starting now. The first shloka of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have already chanted one line from it, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So any scripture, it has to be written some certain way. You can't just go and write a book like today you want, I'll start with what I want and I'll end with what I want. No. Any scripture that's written, there are many rules. And the rules teaches us also etiquettes of how to behave. Right? For example, any book that's written, any activity that is begun, it has to begin with the prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Any activity we do, the first, we can learn, straight out we can learn. The first Abhideya is always started by praying to the Lord. Any activity, it could be material, spiritual, nothing matters. Okay? So the first shloka starts with that. It glorifies the Lord and it finishes with Satyam Param Dhimahi. Dhimahi means I'm doing Dandavats. Okay? So the first shloka, it explains Krishna and it is also a prayer to Krishna. Right? So there are many aspects of Krishna that are explained in the first shloka. So I'm going to write each of those aspects and we'll quickly go through them. This is verse 1.1. Okay, my handwriting is not that good, but I'll explain to you as I go. So the 4 important parts to the shloka that we learn from the first shloka is Krishna is the absolute truth. Now there's a word called tattva in Sanskrit. We generally translate it to absolute truth in English because there is no equivalent of tattva in English. There's no single word. So tattva. So Krishna is the absolute. Krishna is the only absolute truth. Right? So the first knowledge that we learn is absolute truth. Krishna is absolute truth. What is absolute truth? We will have to go to Srila Prabhupada's purport for it. Right? The second one is he is the cause of creation, sustenance and destruction. The third thing that we learn is Adi Kavaya, or he is the one who gave first knowledge to Brahma. Okay? He is the first knowledge to Brahma, and most important, see how the verse is designed. Not only they are, telling the qualities of Krishna, then he goes on, Vyasadeva goes on to say a quality of Krishna that nobody else exists. What he says? No other personality or demigods, rishis, none of them has the knowledge that Krishna has, and all of them are placed in illusion by Krishna. That's a point Vyasadeva is saying. So on one side, he's saying, the qualities of Krishna, and on the second part of the shloka, he is also explaining how Krishna is, different from anybody else, right? So he's setting the stage very clear for our Srimad Bhagavatam. He's saying, I'm not going to talk about anybody else, because you go to Agni Puran, they'll talk about Agni. You go to Skanda Puran, they'll talk about Skanda. In the first shloka of Bhagavatam, they are setting the, Krishna can keep all these personality in illusion. Even Lord Shiva is illusioned by Krishna. We see that in Mohini avatar story, right? And Vishnu came as Mohini. Even, Shiva was enamored. He was, he was attracted. He lost his composure, right? So that is the point that Vyasadeva is mentioning. Now, the purport is very big, as all of you know. It runs for 10 pages, Srila Prabhupada's purport. I'm just going to, I'm just going to mention certain, again, these three parts from the, purport, so that we can, when you read, you can relate to it. Okay? So we're going to just see the summary. First thing Srila Prabhupada writes, as always, amazing, is very clear. Prabhupada writes, again, under Sambandha, is Krishna is all above, and he's specifically mentioning not just, Vishnu or anything. He's saying Krishna, who was the son of Devaki, is what is explained in this verse. Not Vishnu, not Sankarsana, Aniruddha, Rama. Prabhupada is writing, son of Devaki. Emphasis is on Krishna, straight out in Srila Prabhupada's purport. And he goes next, most important, he says, not only the son of Devaki is mentioned, of all the names that can describe God, the principal name is Krishna. So first he's saying, who is God? Who is God? Son of Devaki. And how do you address him? By the name Krishna. That's the topmost. And then Srila Prabhupada in his purport, he goes on to say the history of Bhagavatam, how Vyasadeva wrote it in his maturity when he was, when he was not feeling very satisfied, which we are going to go through. He was feeling, not satisfied at his heart. So then Prabhupada goes on to say the history of Bhagavatam. And he also says, Bhagavatam, as he wrote in the preface, he also writes, Bhagavatam is the answer to all your questions. Okay? Bhagavatam is the question to all your questions. And most importantly, Srila Prabhupada very detailedly explains that Krishna is a person. He's not like some, vague thing. So Prabhupada is setting everything very clear on the first purport itself, and he relates all of this to the purport. Right? For example, he's saying, Adi Kavaye, somebody gave knowledge to Brahma, not some entity gave knowledge to Brahma. So through this sloka, he's explaining all these concepts. He's saying he's the son of Devaki, is the topmost, that is Krishna is his topmost name, and it will answer all your questions, and Krishna is a personality of Godhead. And also Krishna is the chief engineer of this material world. Everything is created by him. There are few things that Srila Prabhupada writes, which is the secondary part of the sloka, which is also comes under Sambandha. One thing, he explains the difference between material world and spiritual world. Straight out. He's saying the word Satyam, right? Srila Prabhupada in one of the paragraphs very clearly says Satyam means absolute truth. And then in the purport he explains what is the difference between absolute and relative. Right? We all know we live in a relative world. What is relative thing? What is relative? Everything is relative. Everything keeps changing in material world. That's the nature of the material world, right? In the shloka, in the purport, you'll see material world is false. And Srila Prabhupada is saying what it means by false is it's a relative truth. And what is a relative truth? Everything keeps changing, right? What is right and what is wrong varies from person to person. It's very relative, yes? How many of you like Rasgulla? Raise your hand. How many of you don't like Rasgulla? Rasgulla is a kind of Indian dessert. How many of you don't like it? Oh, there are at least 2 in my class. Very good. Right. So now, I'll just explain relative in a very simple thing, right? Who likes Rasgulla very much? Sorry. Oh, Mataji likes. Okay. Now, if I take Rasgulla and give it to her, it's an act of kindness. Yes? Yes or no? Yes. If I give the same Rasgulla to him, what happens? And I force him to eat. Cruelty. You understand? It's the same act. The activity is same. But based on the person, the result varies. Like, other simple example. We all drive on the left side of the road. Yes? Yes? No? What happens if you do the same thing in America? Sorry? It's an offense. You understand what is relativity in material world? I had a friend, we went for a driving exam in US. So this guy is again a devotee. So he started the exam, the instructor came, sat in the car, and he said, "Sir, please start driving." So he put on his seat belt, he checked everything, and he started driving. And then the instructor said, "Please take left." So he took a left. And then he said, "Please take a left again." So he took a left again. And then he said, "Please take a left again." And then the third time he took a left again. And then they came to exactly where they started. So, and then the instructor or the examiner very politely said, "Sir, I have to fail you because in our country we drive on the right side of the road. You have been driving on the left side of the road." So, because what we think is right is wrong for other person. If you do the same thing in India, you'll pass the exam. If you do it in Australia, US, you'll fail the exam. So everything is relative in this material world. What is right and what is wrong? We say, "Oh, this is right, that is wrong." Okay? But who knows? It varies from person to person. So everything in this material world is like that. It's all relative. So that's why it is considered false. But spirituality, everything is absolute. Krishna is God, is absolute. He is God today, he is God tomorrow, he was God yesterday. Forever he is God. Right? It's a concept of eternity. Right? And, Krishna, our souls are eternal. Somebody asks, how many of you think we have a soul? Very wrong. We have a body. You understand what I'm saying? We have a body. We don't have a soul. And then, how many of you think Krishna created souls? No. There is no creation for the souls. Atma is eternal because we are part of Krishna. And then, people ask stupid questions. Oh, Krishna, if Krishna created everything, who created Krishna? How many times we have heard this question? Right? But then what we don't understand is there is no concept of time for Krishna. Time itself was created by Krishna. So how will time, this concept of something starting at some point, maintained at some point and destroyed, this is what we call as time, right? Beginning, growth, there are 6 stages, right? And then finally there's the end. So that's how the time is described. But this whole concept doesn't apply to Atma or Krishna or spiritual world. There is no beginning or end. There is no creation or destruction. These are all terms that apply only to the material world. It cannot be applied back to Krishna. Time has no effect in Vrindavan. Otherwise, Krishna will not stay 16 years So Krishna is eternally 16 years and Radharani is eternally 14 years old. Because time has no effect. Time and space has no effect on Krishna because they are created by Krishna. It's like saying, "Oh, I wrote a book." Okay? In the book you write a character, about a character. And he controls everything in the book. Is it logical to say that character can control the author? No, the author controls the character. The circumstance, the time, place, everything is controlled by the author. Similarly, Krishna controls even time. So the concept of time cannot apply. So Satyam, absolute, this we have to be very clear. And all the topic that we are going to talk is based on this again. Clear? So Srila Prabhupada writes that he is coming back to the chief engineer, and then there are certain parts that he is writing in the purport. Also he mentions as part of Sambandha is there are 12 cantos and 18,000 slokas. He quotes from other Puranas to verify this part. And then he talks, most importantly, he says what spiritual life is all about. You are going to be shocked. What do you think spiritual life is all about? Somebody may find it even offensive. You know what Srila Prabhupada writes? He talks about sex life in original spirituality. He's saying, the love between Radha and Krishna is original, and what you call as sex in the material world is just a perverted reflection of it. So the Bhagavatam explains, because we go to the absolute platform, it explains the absolute in that level. How a relationship how a relationship works. And what is a real relationship is explained only in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada writes that in the purport. So these are all the Sambandha Jnana that we get from this sloka and the purport. Abhideya. What are the practical things Srila Prabhupada is writing? So he's saying how to enter Ras Leela. How many of you want to enter Ras Leela? Prabhupada is giving an answer in the first sloka itself. Straight. He talks about Gayatri Mantra, right? Or chanting of the holy name will give us direct entrance. So chanting is the Abhideya. So we know Krishna is the God and Krishna is the principal name. So Abhideya is chanting. So that's a practice. I hope all of us are doing that. And then what is the prayojana? The prayojana is we go back home, back to garden. There are a few other Abhideyas Srila Prabhupada is writing, and he is talking about wrong application of this knowledge. What happens when you apply this knowledge wrongly? For example, Mayavadis also. Who are Mayavadis? People who think, God has no form, right? They also practice. They also, take the same sloka, and out of this sloka they go and do tapasya. So Srila Prabhupada is saying, what happens when you have a wrong Abhideya? When you apply it in a Mayavadi sense, he says, a Mayavadi, does tapasya, he, achieves, detachment from everything, he gives up everything, he goes, wears, sannyas dress, goes and sits and, does all his, whatever he want to do, he's doing. And then, after he has achieved so-called self-realization, then he comes back to the society to build hospitals and everything, and he has to be dependent on one of his rich disciples. So what Srila Prabhupada is saying is, the same knowledge, when you don't understand Krishna as the person, the prayojana is you become dependent on others. Right? And then the same knowledge, when somebody uses in a very karmic platform, right? I go to God. Why I go to God? I want to get some, money. I want to get this. I want to get rid of this. Which, in a very karmic mood, when somebody goes to God, he says, with that mood, when somebody approaches Krishna, what is the goal? He gets death. He can't escape death. So, the Abhideya has to be, we have the Sambandha, right? We have the knowledge. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the creator of everything. He has all the knowledge. We take it, and if we don't, with a wrong perception, if we apply it, the result is entirely different. The same knowledge, based on different application, gives different results. Like Krishna. And very important thing Srila Prabhupada talks about is what's that point? How to hear Bhagavatam. We are going to see it in the next 1.2 as well. He says the Bhagavatam should be heard submissively, with the right attitude. It's very important. So again, comes to, Abhideya, submissive hearing. So, submissive hearing is the base for, all. And what is the result of submissive hearing? Srila Prabhupada writes, whoever hears submissively will become a Mahatma. And Mahatma means a self-realized soul. Right? So again, these are all the Sambandha, Prayojana, Abhideya. There's one important etiquette that we can learn from this sloka. Right? What's the etiquette that we can learn is when you write, for example, you're writing, let's say, a letter to your spiritual master. You're writing, Vyas Puja, glorification, or you want to glorify another devotee. We can learn from this sloka how to do it. The words that are used. You see how the first part talks about the positive side, and the second part talks about how he is different from others. Right? So this is something that we can learn when we write. That's the etiquette that we learn, how to phrase our words. First, talk the positive sides, and also, when you glorify a person, talk how he is different from others. Both the sides. Okay? So this is verse 1.1. Any questions? We'll come to that in second sloka. Second sloka is all about that. Because if you see the handouts I gave, the book when you get, you will see the first sloka is primarily talking about sambandha, the second one is abhideya, third one is prayojana actually. But we are going to see the sambandha, abhideya, prayojana in each of it because Srila Prabhupada has given in the purport each. So, but primarily the first sloka is sambandha. It explains who is God, all those things. The second sloka is, okay. The second sloka talks about completely rejecting all kinds of dharma, all kinds of wrong or the exact word, materially motivated dharma. Bhagavatam talks about the purest and the topmost. And it also goes on to say, it distinguishes the highest truth from illusion. It's narrated by Vyasadeva in his most matured form. And there is, no need of any other scriptures. And also he says, as soon as attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture, knowledge of Supreme Lord is established within the heart. So, just to quickly go through. Sambandha is, knowledge is, all other dharmas are rejected in Bhagavatam. Material dharmas are rejected in Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is written by Vyasadeva in his maturity. It gives the highest knowledge, it differentiates the highest truth from illusion. Okay? These are the three things that Sambandha is about Bhagavatam. What's the Abhideya? Submissively and carefully. Hearing Bhagavatam. And what is the goal? The Lord is established in our heart. Okay. There are a few other Abhideya there. I'll come to it quickly. First quality to submissive hearing, right, is to reject unwanted things in the heart. You asked what are the qualities of submissive hearing? The first part, as it says, is to reject material knowledge. There are 4 kinds of dharma. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Our religion, Srila Prabhupada talks about how any religion talks about dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Right? So generally people approach religion because they want some material benefit. Prabhupada is very logically explaining this. What does it mean, rejecting material dharma? He goes in the lowest sense. Let's say nobody is a devotee, go out of the material world. Everybody is pushed by their senses. Yes? I want this, I want that. That's the base of every living entity in this material world, whether it's man or animal. And then, but human, what happens? When I have a goal, when I want to achieve, I want to earn money, what do? I try to work hard, I try to find a profession. Those days, what they used to do, they used to go to religion. If you do this yajna, you'll get this money. You go to that church and you do this prayer, you'll get money. People had these ideas. If you have suffering or any problem, you go to God. So basically, the application of dharma was purely based on need. Right? But Prabhupada writes, in today's society, nobody needs God to give you money, isn't it? We all know how to get money. Ultimately, even though Krishna is the one who gives the money, but at least materially, everybody thinks that I am earning the money. I am the doer. I go to job. I work in the office, so I am earning money. So Prabhupada is saying, that's why in today's society, you don't see people who are very spiritually inclined, because they think their needs are taken care of already. Right? So, that's one thing. So what is the route for that guy then to become a devotee? And then Srila Prabhupada goes, the only way in the purport Prabhupada is explaining is when he gets frustrated in the material world. So material needs, I know I don't need to go to God. I can go to Bill Gates or this guy. I can work in this company, that company. I can do this, earn money. But then if you have problems in life, still, not all problems of life can be solved. So then people think how to get rid of problem. And that's where they come to religion. But Srila Prabhupada writes, and the Bhagavatam says, we are not going to talk about those kind of things here. We are not going to talk how to make money. We are going to talk, how to get rid of your problem, material problems, right? Those are all rejected already. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha are already, the basic things are already rejected. So for a devotee to submissively, carefully hear the first quality, I'm not saying, it's not that, only if you are pure you can hear Bhagavatam. Then none of us can sit here, I can't even talk. So the idea is that as I said, our goal, the top goal has to be very clear. I may have hundreds of attachments today. I may be attached to, earning money. I may be attached to opposite sex. I may be attached to name and fame. Fine. But at least the goal in my mind is clear. I know where I am going. So the most important quality for submissive hearing is the goal. What is your goal when you, read or hear Bhagavatam? If submissiveness comes from setting the real goal. So, as part of it, we should reject all unwanted goals based on artha, kama, moksha. So, those kind of goals a devotee should give up, right? So, and then Prabhupada writes, you have to be very carefully read Bhagavatam. Okay? Last week there was a question, I read through Bhagavatam but I don't understand, or I am not able to retain. Fine, no problem. As long as we have put our effort sincerely, that will do the work. As Ghanshyam Prabhu was saying in last week's class, it's not the intellectual capability that's going to, make us great scholars. And our aim is also not to become scholars. Our aim is to become nice devotees. Right? So submissive hearing, the first quality is to giving up all these. And the second most important quality to be a submissive hearer is not to have a challenging spirit. Never ask a question in a challenging spirit. We are not here to challenge anybody. That's not our goal. Right? When we are hearing Bhagavatam from senior devotees, when we are reading Srila Prabhupada's book, it has to be in a submissive mood, no challenging attitude. The challenging attitude itself comes from the wrong goal. See, the goal is to become a servant of Krishna. And a challenging attitude comes because I think I know better than you. Isn't it? See, submission and challenging, they are absolutely opposite to each other. In Vedic knowledge, there is no challenging attitude at all. The only challenging attitude is allowed is when somebody talks against devotional service. Within devotional service, there is no challenging. When somebody talks against Krishna, when somebody talks against the devotees, when somebody talks against our philosophy, then we challenge. But we don't challenge the philosophy itself. We learn it submissively. That's very important. So we give up the challenging attitude. That's the abhideya. And again, that comes back from etiquette, right? This is something, that goes back to the varnashram system. The varnashram system is very deep in itself. If you read Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll see how the sages questioned, Sutta Goswami. They didn't say, hey, you have read everything, can you tell me? No. That's not the way they talked. So these etiquettes are important. And if you want to be really submissive, you have to apply these etiquettes. One time I asked Bhakti Vidyapurna Maharaj a question. Maharaj was giving a class on Trinadapi Sunichena. You have heard that verse? It talks about you can chant the holy name of Krishna only when you are in humble state of mind. Yes, Trinadapi Sunichena. So I asked Maharaj, I am not humble by nature. Right? I am not humble by nature. So should I act as if I am humble? Then is it not an hypocrisy? Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yo. Then Maharaj, looked at me and then he answered in a very simple one line he finished the answer. He said, I know you're not humble, but you can stop being arrogant. It's a very deep answer if you think about it. Right? What it basically Maharaj is saying is the spiritual qualities, submissive hearing may not exist in me. I may not be by nature submissive, right? But I can control my negative sides. That is in my, when my mind says challenge this person, I can say, no, that's not the right way to do it, I'll not do it. That is in my control. Being submissively, naturally may not be within me. Humbleness may not come naturally to us. But the negative side, if we keep controlling and we practice Krishna conscious, then automatically the positive side will come to us. Right? I'm not saying we should artificially give up negative side, and we should not imitate the positive side. We shouldn't suddenly sit in, very straight, one class and then go home and, my back is killing me. Right? So, because those days people were trained. Even now, if you go to some Gurukul, they don't allow kids to sit like this with the back, back not straight or, leaning on a wall. They don't allow kids to sit like that in traditional Gurukuls. Starting from the posture in sitting in class, everything was taught from very early age. But we are not used to that, right? So we shouldn't imitate. Suddenly one day I sit, straight, like this, and then go home and, lie down. Oh, next class I don't want to go to this Prabhu's class at all. It's better to sit back and, listen, and slowly, develop those qualities. Then it will come automatically to us. As we desire to be a submissive, hearer, automatically the qualities will manifest. But we have to only control the negative sides. Okay? So, that's about the second shloka. Any questions? Okay. The third shloka. I think we read the purport last week as well. Okay. It says, it goes, primarily the emphasis on prayojana, but it has other parts as well. What it talks is, more important, as part of it, I said the reason also, there is a reason that we don't listen to, in the purport Srila Prabhupada is writing, a person who reads Bhagavatam, he doesn't have to read any other book. Please be very clear about it. Including other Shastras, we don't need to study. For example, if you read Mahabharata, Mahabharata is a great literature. We get Bhagavad Gita out of it. But if you see, Mahabharata primarily focuses on Karma Kanda. That's why devotees, we don't give very much emphasis. We do take a lot of stories, Leelas from Mahabharata, but as a goal, we don't use Mahabharata, because Mahabharata goal is for, primarily talks about achieving heaven. It talks about, in most of Mahabharata, you would see that it talks about the importance of having a son. Right? There's the story that I was telling in the beginning where the husband says that, I will leave you even if you, do one small wrong thing. How the story starts is, there was a rishi called Jatakratu. Okay? So this rishi, from his childhood, he was a strict brahmachari. He gave up all material sense gratification, and his whole focus was doing tapasya. Right? He was doing tapasya. The name Jatakratu itself means one who has wasted away his body in tapasya. Okay, that's the meaning of that word. So he is going like this, and one day he goes to the forest and he sees somebody, by a thread, lot of people, just by one thread, lot of people hanging upside down. And there's a big pit beneath. And he's like, oh, who are you? What happened to you? Can I help you in any way? I feel very sorry for you. Can I give my ascetic power to save your life? There is one rat sitting and, eating that single thread that is connecting all these people from falling to this thing. Oh, and then they reply back, oh, please, you can't help us. We are all Pitrus of one fallen fellow called Jatakratu. He is only interested in doing tapasya. He is not, taking a wife and, giving us a son who will do Pitru, who will do the Tarpana. And without their Tarpana, we can't stay in Pitruloka, we will fall down and suffer. And this rascal is going ahead. If you want to help us, you please find this rascal and tell him that we are suffering. And then he says, oh, I am the rascal. I am the rascal. So then they beg him. And then he says, okay. Right? So you see the focus here? The focus is very important. The focus is very different. For the sadhu, it was liberation. But for his forefathers, it is all about, living in Pitruloka. And the story goes on. And on the other side also, then the rishi says, oh, okay. For you, I'll marry. But there are some conditions. What are the conditions? One, I will only marry a girl with my own name. Very whimsical, right? Who wants to marry, oh, my name is Narottam, my wife's name should be Narottam. No. What he is mentioning is, what is the meaning of the name? The meaning of the name is, I've wasted away my life in austerity. I want a wife who is similar in that, who is serious about her spiritual life. Because those days, names had meaning. Today, you will see Padmalochana, Padmanayana. Now, Padmanayana means lotus eyes. He'll be blind. You know what to do? Today, names and personalities, those days, names and the personalities, they match together. So anyway, so he says, I want only a girl who's, like that. Okay, the forefather says, okay, that condition, okay. And I will not maintain her. Why? I have no idea of doing any material things. I will only do tapasya. Somebody should maintain her. So what you will do? I'll only get a son and then go away. Right? See, the focus of Mahabharata and the people in there are entirely different, because the rishi is only interested in liberation. He's not interested in anything else. And then, actually he got a, wife like that because, she had a different purpose. She wanted a son through him so that, because there was a curse in the line of snakes. She was coming in the line of Nagas, and there was a curse. And it was said that this rishi's son can save them from this curse. So his brother, who was the king of snakes, Vasuki, he said, oh, no problem. My sister has the same name. Does all austerity. You don't have to maintain her. I will maintain her. Just marry, get a son, give us, and you go away. Right? So you see, the goal and the focus of the story is entirely different. The points that are emphasized are, doing Pitru, doing Tarpana, how your forefathers can live happily in heaven, how you can achieve heaven. That's the focus in Mahabharata. Primary focus. Whereas in Bhagavatam, that's not the case. Bhagavatam, you will find no story that talks about going to heaven. It's always about, achieving, going back home, back to Godhead. And that's why I said that we have to reject. So I'm not saying devotees should not read Mahabharata, but I'm saying even when we read other scriptures, our focus should be very clear. Otherwise, we'll get lost. So 1.3 is about fruits of the maturity. Okay. So it says, Bhagavatam is the fruit or the final answer of all Vedic literature. Okay? It came from the mouth of Sukha Deva Goswami, who was a liberated soul. And what is the prayojana? The prayojana is that what it says, it will give happiness even to people who are liberated, people who are not seeking anything, who has been freed from this material world. Right? Like Ghanshyam Prabhu was talking about Sukadeva Goswami, right? When he came to the womb, he was already liberated soul. But even a liberated personality, for them they derive pleasure. So what is the goal? The prayojana is we get pleasure by reading Bhagavatam. It gives pleasure to the Atma. Okay? So prayojana is pleasure. Sambandha is fruit, Vedic literature, Sukadeva Goswami. And what is the practice, Abhidya? Always hear only from devotees. Clear? Prabhupada in the purport, he's beautifully he writes that He beautifully writes why you have to hear from devotees. And, because when devotees, like as I was explaining, you can go and read Jiva Goswami's, right? But reading it in the purport of Srila Prabhupada will give us more pleasure. Right? The material world, the higher we go, we become very happy. You become boss of the boss of the boss. You become very happy, yes? That's what everybody wants to achieve, yes or no? But spiritual world, it's the inverse. Das of the das of the das, they get more happiness. Radharani gets more happiness than Krishna by serving him. The gopis, they get more pleasure by serving Radha and Krishna. The manjaris, they get more pleasure by serving Radha, Krishna and the gopis. So down the line you go in the spiritual world, the happiness that you perceive is much higher. But material, even if you go to the topmost position, still you can't be happy. But at least the perception is that. So Abhideya is that the more we hear from the devotee's mouth, the more we can relish. So Bhagavatam should be heard from the mouth of a devotees and never from non-devotees. Because then we'll get most pleasure. And again, as I said, Srila Prabhupada again emphasizes reading it beginning to end, not jumping anywhere. These are the two practices that he is talking in this shloka, and it talks about the glories of Bhagavatam. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I think 11:20 is what we are supposed to finish the class. Am I right? Yes? Yeah, so it's 11:20. I'll just take questions. I think 11:20 to 11:30 is questions. So today I just gave you the background of Bhagavatam, introduction, how we are going to structure the class, and just the first 3 shlokas. Next week we are going to finish the whole first chapter, because starting from 4th and 10th, 23rd shloka, it's about questions, how they questioned, what are the questions they asked. There are 6 questions that the rishis asked Sutta Goswami. So we're going to see the 6 questions, and that's what they are in the handout that I gave you. So we are going to cover that part. So please bring this handout next week. I'm not going to give a separate handout next week. So we're going to cover that part. We just have finished the prelude and the bhakti part, the first 3 shlokas. We are going to do the questions and the other part next week. Yes, Mataji.
If we have Srimad Bhagavatam, do we need the other one?
This one? It's an optional one. What it basically does is it just gives a summary of each. Yeah, like you can see, it's more like a summary, and each shloka, it just gives the summary of each shloka. So it's more like if you don't want to take notes. It's like in printed notes, and that's what I'm going to use just to give a summary. But there's a little difference between how I structure the class and this one. I'm going to take these points, but I'm going to divide it into these 3 parts. So the emphasis being on application.
And how do we get the book?
The book? Ghanshyam Prabhu, I don't know how, I think few of you have already ordered with Ghanshyam Prabhu, yes? So some have already ordered. If you want, you can talk to Ghanshyam Prabhu. He has ordered some 50 copies. From what I heard, it will come in 2 weeks. So this week and next week alone, and then we'll go. And I also wanted to just give you one background, is the first 3 cantos of Bhagavatam was very heavy in philosophy. The first 3 cantos are very heavy in philosophy. You'll see the class is a bit heavier than your normal thing. But after 3rd canto, we'll go very fast, because it's like a lot of leelas come, Dhruva story. From there, it takes on in an entirely different speed altogether. First 3 cantos is very heavy on philosophy. The Sambandha Jnana is very heavy there. And then the middle cantos are full of Abhideya, because we learn devotees, what they do. So we'll go pretty fast. 5th canto and all, we'll go very fast. It's like, it explains the structure of the universe and all those things. So we'll go pretty fast. And then again, we'll becoming slow in the 10th, 11th and 12th canto. So 10th is the Prayojana, the final goal, Krishna. And and 12th also have a lot of heavy philosophy. So the first 3 cantos is going to be a little bit heavy on philosophical side. I'll try to add some stories when now and then possible, just to make the class not very dry. But the emphasis is going to be on Abhideya. Because yes, Mataji.
In the 1.2 shloka, you said the practice was carefully read Bhagavatam.
Yes.
Was it just to understand the prayojana? Is to read the Bhagavatam with carefully?
No.
Or is just to understand the meaning of the verse?
Everything. What I say is carefully is more like a behavioral attitude when you take Bhagavatam. Don't read it casually is the point that Prabhupada is mentioning. It's not a casual read. Right. I'm not saying if you casually read, you won't get benefit. But the real way to read Bhagavatam is very carefully. Because gravity is the base. We have to be grave in everything that we do. Lightness is not an option in Vedic culture. Even though modern world emphasizes on, take it as it comes. But that's not our attitude in Vedic culture. It is when it comes to material things. One devotee said, there's a difference between devotees and non-devotees. Okay? Devotees are careless. Devotees are carefree. And non-devotees are careless. There's a difference between being careless and carefree. What is the difference?
Carefree because they leave the worries on Krishna.
Yeah.
Not on themselves.
And careless?
Ignorant.
Yes. In material world, ignorance is bliss. You ignore, careless means not doing your responsibilities, right? Carefree means you do your responsibility, but you're not attached to the results. There's a huge difference. Both look the same. Both are not worried about results. But devotees, we do our responsibility and leave the rest in Krishna's hand. Whereas material people, they don't do whatever they want and they will not follow it up also. That's the nature of Kali Yuga. Externally, both will look same. This fellow also is not bothered about results. That fellow is also not bothered about results. But the other devotee, they'll do their responsibility perfectly. Yes, ma'am.
Regarding the verse 1, you explained how this same knowledge is applied by Mayavadis and Karmis.
Yes.
Can you explain how they did that?
Yeah. So Mayavadis also use the same sloka, like Satyam, when they talk about it. So there in that verse, if you even read the shloka, it talks about how the material world is false, right? So they take, they just read that verse and they say, oh, everything is false, nothing is true, right? They don't see Krishna is beyond this, right? They include Krishna within the falsity itself. So their application of the knowledge is wrong. So they don't worship Krishna, they don't do chanting. And even if they do chanting, their aim is to give up chanting at some point. And so what happens? They keep on doing that. They think they are, because they get rid of all these things, right? They don't want to be dependent on anything. They want to cut all attachments, everything. But the end result is same. They'll become dependent only. And that's what Srila Prabhupada is writing. They want to become independent, but they become independent, then again they'll fall back to being dependent. Because their original application had a problem in it.
You can explain.
Because they think independent means not being dependent on anything. But for us, independence means being dependent on Krishna and not anybody else. You see the difference in application? So because they don't want to even depend on Krishna, they ultimately end up depending on a material person. Because nobody can be independent. And the same thing happens to karmis. Oh, I want this, I want that. They take the same knowledge. Oh, Krishna is absolute. He is the creator of everything. So I go and ask him, he'll give me. Krishna will fulfill the desires, right? But the problem is we'll not get out of the cycle of birth and death. And again, we will come back to the same problem. In some Janma, again, we'll not have enough money. We'll have some, my wife is not listening to me. My husband is an idiot, My wife will at least vouch for that. So I'm just saying, So.
One more thing, Prabhupada mentions that this is unreal. The word I think he uses is unreal.
False.
Is it false?
Yes. we'll go to the purport. Yeah, maybe unreal. No. I think it's the first verse, right? Yeah. Yeah, unreal. Although they are unreal, yes, correct.
Yes, in some of his lectures, Prabhupada mentions that he says Mayavadi is all about neti. But actually it is not false.
Correct.
It's just manifested and unmanifested.
Correct.
Can you make it more clear? Because
Yes.
if somebody is Mayavadi, he can pick up this word like, look, Srila Prabhupada is himself saying unreal.
Correct. So Prabhupada himself in the purport has very clearly explained. That's where I explained to you about relative and absolute truth. So when Prabhupada writes, when we say unreal, what we actually mean is that it's a relative truth. It was true, but only at some point in time. For example, you take the whole material world, right? Today, this is all true. Okay? So let's say after the pralaya, is it true? Was it real or not real? For a person who exists at that point in time, it was unreal. Isn't it? Because for him, it doesn't exist. Like you take this table, right? This is real for us today. We can see it, feel it, it is present there, it is serving the, in the temple, it is serving for the purpose of devotees, right? Let's say after 2 years, this breaks down, you throw it away, they strip it off everything. The table is unreal at that point in time, because it's not, there is no existence at that point.
What do the Mayavadis think when they say false? What do they think?
They think that even at all the point, like they say, now itself it's not real. It's not existing now. You think it is existing, but it's not existing. It's very convoluted philosophy. We can go to that. But, Bhanu Maharaj very simply explained, when he met a person who attended the Mayavadi class and came. He said, how was the class? Okay. He said, wonderful. It was super, very technical. It's like very amazing. So then Maharaj asked him, what did you understand? What do you mean by what do you understand? It was fantastic because I didn't understand it. Right? Mayavadi philosophy is very similar to that. They go very convoluted. I mean, they go in circle. I don't know if you have used Excel sheet. How many of you have used Excel sheet? They have something called as a circular reference, right? You refer to something, and that again refers to this thing. So that's how Mayavadi philosophy. They'll say, everything is unreal. Then you ask, oh, are you unreal? No, to think I am unreal is unreal. So are you real or not? They will not answer that question. They never say something is unreal. They'll keep on going in a looped way. That's what Mayavadam is. Yeah? Any other questions? 11:30 we are supposed to finish. I think Prabhu has a ceremony.
Prabhu, do we consider Mayavadi as Buddhism?
No. Buddhists say nothing exists. Mayavadi says Brahman exists. So it's very similar. It's like difference between nothing and Brahman. Brahman is like the, all-pervading everything.
They are Brahmavadis.
Yes, Brahmavadis. So everything is Brahman, whereas Buddhists say nothing exists. It's all void.
And Prabhu,
And that one most important difference is Buddhists, they don't accept Vedic literatures. Mayavadis accept Vedic literature.
But Buddhists meditate a lot, so whom do they meditate on?
So even Mayavadis meditate on. They'll meditate on Krishna, Rama, and then later sometime when they realize, they will give up that. They'll realize that what they meditated was also false.
Krishna or they meditate on Brahmaji?
It depends. In real Mayavadic philosophy, you have to meditate on Vishnu.
But Buddhism, they meditate on Lord Buddha or
No. There are many sects of Buddhism, Mataji. Right, Mahayana, and there's so many things and so many philosophies. So there's no end to it. The Buddhists on, they'll Buddha, laughing Buddha, sitting Buddha, standing Buddha, no Buddha. You become Buddha. There are many philosophies. You can keep on going. But origin is Krishna for that also, because Buddha is an incarnation of Krishna. That's the beauty of it. And Shankara is Adi Shankara is Shiva himself, who is the prime devotee. So that's the Achintya Beda Beda.
Prabhu, do you want to finish that story?
No, that story I'll finish next week, Mataji, so that I can make sure that you'll come for next week. We're talking about that Mahabharata story where the husband said, I'll leave you and go. Okay, so yeah, I'll finish it next week. I'm not sure whether we have time for it. It's a very interesting, I'm telling you, Mahabharata is excellent in stories, but we'll definitely touch a lot of stories. How Garuda came, they're all very interesting stories. We're going to go through a lot of that. But yeah, just hold on with me. Next week I'll finish the story. So,
The same Adi Shankaracharya who got the the Badrinath temple, he reinstated, is he the one? 1,000 years
yes,
ago?
yes.
So then then there is a conflict. He's the pioneer of Mayavad.
Mayavadis, they don't reject deity worship.
Oh.
But they think deity worship is the way to achieve liberation. And once you are liberated, you don't have to do deity worship. But for us, the process and the goal are, understand this, Sambandha, Abhidheya, Prayojana, all three is same for us.
You want to serve eternally.
That's it. Even though we are, for the practical purpose, we are dividing. Sambandha is devotional service, Abhidheya is devotional service, goal is devotional service for us.
So for Vaishnavas, is Badrinath temple also
very important, because that's where Naranarayana Rishi sits. It's their part. It's been from time immemorial, from Satya Yuga, they have been living there. So, yes, Prabhu.
Can it be taken as all part of the spiritual evolution? Like initially, probably Lord Sarangan moved to have Shankara and then
Yes, it's all correct. What you said is right. It's all a cycle. But as I said, for us, it's all a cycle. It's always a cycle. In Vedic literature, time is cyclical. Bhagavad Gita itself is cyclical, isn't it? Krishna says, right? Oh, I taught this to Surya Deva and then, it was lost, so I'm coming back again to re-establish it. So for us, it's cyclical. Okay. Any other questions? No? Grandaraj, Srimad Bhagvatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Saura Premanandai.
Sankirtan Narottam.
So please bring the handouts again next week.
Yeah.